Welcome back to another live and amplified Indie Fusion podcast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and today we have a very special guest joining us. We have Matt Oakley. How's it going today, man?
What's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. I'm just sitting here in Central Texas, and it's
Hmm.
starting to feel like summer here, so I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm down in Tampa, so I think it was like 91 today or something like
Hmm.
that, and the UV's up near 10, so we're getting beat on.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to get up into the triple digits this weekend. I'm like, yay! And it's been humid here, so it's like I live in Florida again.
Yeah,
So you're based out of Tampa now. How long have you been in Tampa?
I've been here for about 2 years. I moved here when I graduated college. I lived in South Carolina for about 5 years,
Hmm.
and then kind of challenged myself, how south can I go, just because I hate the cold. And so I got my wish, but now I'm burning up. So in about a month, I'm moving up to Nashville and gonna dive into a bunch of the music stuff up there too. So I've tended to bounce around my whole life. So
Nice. Fair enough. So where do you kind of consider home then? Because obviously you were born into a military family, so you've moved around. Where do you kind of consider home?
yeah, for the when people ask, I normally do tell them I'm like I moved around because my dad was in the army. But
Hmm.
if I got to pin down one spot, I spent most of my life in Virginia.
Okay.
Um, we lived over on a 10-acre plot of land over in Clifton, so it's like right outside. It's probably like 50 to an hour outside of DC, but we were out there. So all my buddies would always joke about having to drive out to the sticks in the middle of nowhere to come hang out. So, but I like where I grew up. So I'd say Virginia.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And is that kind of where you got introduced to music, or is that kind of always been there?
So as far as like me actually playing music and stuff, that didn't come until like later on in my life. I'm 25 now, and I'd say I really didn't even start seriously like writing my own songs and making my own music until I was like 22 or so.
Okay.
So it was, but my dad was a DJ when he was in the military before we were born, and so when we were born and he had his own kids, he always had music playing, and there was always some form, and it wasn't only one genre. It was country, it was pop, it was rock, it was
Nice.
everything, and it was that early 2000s rap stuff. So we were exposed to everything, and so I always enjoyed it, and I always was interested in music as like what as an art and what it was,
Hmm.
and then ultimately started making my own. So it just kind of happened naturally.
Fair enough. So it's very much like maybe not an exact comparison, but like Good Morning Vietnam. Did you ever watch that movie?
I'm familiar, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So you didn't start like playing, writing and playing music until you pretty much were about to graduate college or your
Yeah,
senior?
it was my senior year of college, and um when COVID hit, I actually took a gap year
Mm,
um because they were only doing online school, and I didn't want to do that. I was like, if I'm paying what I'm paying to go to college, I want to
yeah.
go to college. And so I took a gap year, and that gap year is when I got into music. So it was kind of like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't really know what my plan was when I did elect to take the gap year, but I had one year left to go, and so when COVID hit, I started getting into music with some of my buddies. We just started writing random songs, like no rhyme or reason, just throwing stuff down and seeing how it sounded. And then over time, I kind of fell in love with the the challenge of it, and I wanted to get better. And a couple of my buddies were like, "There's something here," and
Yeah.
so during that gap year, I really just tried to hone in like my sound and understand my voice and see where I could take it. And it's taken me to this point now.
Nice. And so you were primarily doing all that in South Carolina, or were you going back and forth to like
Yeah.
Nashville or?
So when I first started out, it was all in South Carolina. I got in with this. He's a kind of like a all hands on deck kind of guy. He's a producer. He's an instrumentalist. His name's Shane Lance. He's pretty popular on social media, and I
Mhm.
found him, and he was one of the first people I reached out to like kind of help me with my sound and figure out my stuff. And he's been super great and super instrumental. But we were doing almost all that remote. Every now and then I'd fly out. He lives in California, so I'd
Mm.
fly out to see him, and his family's got a great little vibe to him. And so it was just like it was always really wholesome, like around the music and stuff. And so there was never too much pressure on it. It wasn't like I was going and it really early on walking into these crazy big studios and
Yeah.
trying to hold my own. It was a lot of like nurture and find your
Yeah.
sound and be flexible with it. So
Nice. So you'd mentioned that it was that gap year that you kind of started taking these chances of writing, going into like exploring music and whatnot. Was there a specific moment that you were kind of like, okay, this is something that I want to explore, or was it just something that was always there, and then the COVID gap year just was kind of like that opportunity that you'd been looking for?
so I always loved it, and I always loved like messing around with ideas I had, or like going on just YouTube and listening to like different guitar loops and stuff like that, and like
Mm,
messing around, like never anything serious. And then I'd say around COVID, I was trying to teach myself the piano, and I posted a little cover. It was just like it wasn't even the right chords of the song. It was like completely off, but I just kind of sang it my own way, and I posted
mm,
it on social media. And like the next day, I checked it, and it was like I had like 100 something comments, and people were like asking me to do covers of other songs and stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like I don't know. I can't sit down at the piano and just play it. At that point in time, I couldn't. And and so from there, like I had a couple producers reach out and be like, "Hey, like let's help get you to like making your own stuff." And so I didn't really know how I was going to do it, but like once other people kind of started picking up on that there might be something there, then I was like, okay, like let's dive a little deeper on it. And
mm,
I'd say over that was like the moment once I got kind of like some validation from, which
mhm.
you shouldn't need, obviously,
Yeah.
if you should just do something for because you love it. But then I didn't even realize how much I loved it until I dove a little deeper, and all that really took was a little push from the outside world, and
Yeah.
I kind of took that and ran with it.
Yeah. And so basically, it sounds like had you not had that like group of close friends that were willing to
Yeah,
help you out, this may not even be a thing right now.
it wouldn't be. I tell my buddies all the time, like there's something about a group of friends that you can just trust and like love and
Mhm.
hang out with and have a good time with, but ones that support you when it's not maybe not like the normal thing to do. When I was like, oh, there was never any pushback. It was just like, but there was like constructive criticism and there was like honesty and like, oh, this like maybe we're not there yet and stuff like that. And so I've got a group of my buddies that just like as far as the friends I have and the people that I know are out there and that exist, I couldn't have had a better group of friends, especially doing what I'm doing. And I'm very grateful for that. I can't thank my family enough and like all this stuff. And it's like the biggest thing is they've kind of let me be me and like come into my own and figure out where I wanted to take the music and where it was going. And so yeah, you hit that right on the nail right on the head there. Without my friends and the support system I've had, I probably would have like never dove into it the way that I did.
Yeah. It may just be like something that you do from time to time, but not to this level, which
No.
that just it goes to show like how important having that close group of friends are that
Yeah.
are like actually supportive, and they're just not like essentially bullies, I get, because I grew up with a lot of
Yeah.
people that were like friends, but they were really just opportunistic friends that were
Yeah.
like bullies almost to a point, and we were
Yeah.
just there to amuse each other, not really go anywhere in life. Um,
We definitely pick on each other and mess with each other from time to time. And obviously it's like um it's all out of love though. That's the thing. It's like I'd never look at them and be like, oh, that those are a group of like bullies or those are a group
yeah,
of guys who are just like mean for no reason. Like it's all in good fun and like they throw stuff at me, I throw stuff at them, and
yeah,
we go from there. But I got love for all my guys like that.
that's cool. That's really cool. And so then you started releasing music in 2022, right?
Correct.
And you've been pretty consistent, which especially early on is a really important thing. Honestly, it's it's one of those things where I think a lot of musicians think that they could just kind of release a song, wait 2 years, and then release another
Yeah.
song. And whereas you've been doing what, about 2 songs a year right now? Is that kind of where you've been at?
So about and what
Yeah.
feels crazy is to me, I'm like where I'm at right now with how many songs I have, I'm like I should have 50 songs out.
Right.
I think I probably have like, and they're not all great, so take this with a grain of salt, but I probably have like 100 and something songs just sitting on my phone, not finished or anything, but I
Yeah.
mean some are, but for where I thought it was going to be and like where
Mhm.
it's going, I thought it was going to be like a song every couple weeks and then
Yeah.
sit there with a catalog of 50 songs, but like you don't even want to do it that way. Like
Yeah.
you want to own your sound and get it right and get it to the point where like I said, whatever pace I'm on, 2, 3
Mm.
songs a year. And now we've been working up in Nashville and we're sitting on about a 13 song album and we're
Nice.
slowly releasing some singles to lead up to that. And so it's like at no point was it a rush. At no point did we try. And I always use the term, we never tried to microwave it. Like it was never like, let's do one song and push everything we have behind it, see whatever we
Yeah.
can to get everyone to like, it never was that. It was more so like, let's try and get some organic feedback and learn from it and go from there. And so now we're at a point where it does feel like we can drop as many songs as we want and go from there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think once you kind of make that move to Nashville, I think that's where things are really going to get interesting. Not that you don't
Yeah.
have access to a lot of like recording studios and stuff in Tampa, because I've been to Tampa. I know some people in Tampa, and Tampa's actually got a really cool like scene going on. I don't know what the
Yeah, it
country
does.
scene is. I don't know what the country scene is in Tampa, but just I know the music scene in general in Tampa is really
Yeah.
cool and interesting. So, but I think once you get up to Nashville, it's going to get kicked into high gear, and it'll be really interesting to see how things go for you.
That's the plan at least, right?
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so you just dropped a new song, what, little over 2 weeks ago? I'm
Yeah,
sitting here
about
trying to do
yeah.
math in my head, like, oh
Nah,
yeah,
don't. It's too
uh,
late in the day to be sitting here trying to do math. It was let's just call it 2.5 weeks ago, I think is
fair.
what it was.
Awesome, awesome. So kind of tell us what you kind of, the name of the song is "Can't Take the Dogs," which is a really, it has several meanings in my opinion, but I kind of want to hear what your thought process was writing this song and kind of going through it.
Yeah, so I've told the story a few times now, and so I've kind of got the Spark Notes version. I won't be too long-winded, but
Fair.
it is about my it's about my parents' divorce. And when they did split up, I was like maybe 11 or 12,
Hmm.
and me and my siblings got to decide who we lived with, and it was joint custody. We saw each other, and I saw both my parents all the time. But the biggest like issue they fought about and in the courtroom was who got to keep our dog, and it was blown up. And I remember it being like the most dramatic thing I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, they might fight for like split custody of the dog before they fight for split custody of the kids. And so I was like, this was like 15 years ago. And so like a year ago, I was sitting in the studio. I've got like a little home studio, and I was just messing around with my guitar, and I was kind of like fumbling over ideas and what I wanted to write about. And then that story just stuck out in my head, and I was like, let me see where I can take this. And I literally just A to Z'd it in like 2 hours. And I kind of sat on it because I was like, I don't know if my parents would necessarily
Yeah.
like me making a song like that. And so I was sitting there talking to one of my friends one time, and they told me about they had just broken up um, with their boyfriend, and
Hmm.
she was telling me how in the middle of the night she like packed up her car with their dog and drove and just basically texted him saying like, hey, I left, I took the dog, like that's that. And so I immediately hit up my engineer, and I was like, hey, we got to book a studio block. I got this song that I think people will like and relate to. And then we made a demo and took it to Nashville, and then the Nashville guys loved it, and we tracked it out, and that's the song that y'all are hearing now.
Nice, nice. When I was started listening to it a couple days ago, as I was kind of preparing for this, I've definitely picked the breakup element of it is very to the forefront of the song. But then I started like really listening to it, and I was like, man, this this guy's saying a whole lot without really saying exactly what I was feeling, because it was like, um, to me, it was screaming, women can come and go, but my dog is my best friend.
Yeah.
So like that, I don't know. For me, that's just
No,
kind of what I got out of the song. So
yeah, it's spot on. And so you once again like nailed it.
mm,
It was the aspect of like the most important thing in the breakup being the dog, but it also was like a sentiment to how I feel about my animals. And if I ever got to a point where it was just me and my ex or whoever it
mm,
is and this dog, it's like I'm gonna fight like hell to keep it. And so it was it had a lot to do with like all those things that I listed out in the verse one, like the house, the picture,
mm,
the whiskey, my
yeah,
guitar, like all my favorite things. Take, I don't care. The most important thing to me is that I'm driving away with my dogs, and so
yeah.
yeah, it's spot on.
Yeah. I was I was sitting there thinking about it. I was like, man, what would be kind of cool and interesting is if you found a female musician that could do like a female response to this
Hmm.
song. I feel like that would be kind of an interesting like way to kind of help both musicians kind of grow off of a similar concept. Like almost do
Yeah,
like a remix of it.
yeah. I
So
mean, open to anything. Obviously,
yeah.
I was like, you never want to force anything, but like if it were to come about, that is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah. And so you'd mentioned that you're in the process of releasing singles out for a full-length album. Now, is that starting with Can't Take the Dog, or where's that kind of starting with in your release?
Yeah, so Can't Take the Dogs is the first song in that cycle of songs. We're gonna do three or four,
Okay.
depending on where we want to get to. Um, we have another one coming out at the end of June. Don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
don't want to speak like out of turn. I don't know
Yeah.
if we've locked it down or anything, but I think it's going to be the end of June, and it's one of my favorites that we've written. And so all of these ones that are coming out are the Nashville cuts. And so Can't Take the Dogs was the first song that I've released that I did full in studio in Nashville. And then everyone after that is going to be the same way, leading up to an album of 13, 14 songs that were all written, cut, and recorded down in Nashville. And so it's just a really cool spot to be in. I feel very grateful and blessed to have the opportunity to even work with the people I have worked with. And I know they're in my corner. And so it's like I don't ever worry about anything. We're going to drop these singles and see what the world thinks about them. And we're going to drop this album and see what the world thinks about it. And we love it. We think it's a classic. So we're super stoked on it.
Nice, nice. So when are you moving to Nashville? Are you going to be up there for CMA Fest, or is it going to be after that?
So that's June 6th to 9th, I think. I
Yeah.
move a month after that. So I
Okay.
move July 3rd, and I think I actually might I don't I once again I'm real bad with my calendar. I need to
Yeah.
pull up. I'm doing a concert somewhere on the 7th. So I don't think I'll be up in Nashville for CMA Fest, but I've seen videos and it's so sick. And the goal is hopefully next year, once this album's out, to be performing a few songs up there. So I'm just gonna put that out in the world and
Nice.
manifest it that way.
Nice. I got really lucky and got a media pass for it at very last
Oh,
minute, and I was
nice.
just like, okay, that's gonna be cool. I never been to CMA Fest. I joke I've been more to Nashville more in the last 4 months than I have in my entire life. Like I for whatever reason I've just been going to Nashville a whole bunch, and
Yeah.
it's really cool. So,
It's got a
um,
vibe to it that you can't really like replicate anywhere else.
and it's expensive. Like that's the only
It
thing that
is it is expensive.
drives me nuts about the place. It's like this place is so expensive. I'd rather move to Memphis, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, so you've got a busy summer. You've got you're working on the release of this full album, the move to Nashville. What are you kind of doing outside of music to keep your head on straight?
Like I said, I got a great group of friends, and I still have my 9 to 5. So I know it's not the cool thing to say, but I'm not gonna be stupid and try and if I don't have to be that struggling musician as like the
Yeah.
mantra has been, like, not mantra, but the vibe has been put out, and
Hmm.
everyone tries to focus on. Um, so I mean, I work in it. I have an appreciation for like the split life almost. It's like I wake up and I'm productive and I'm doing my job, and then I'm hanging with friends, and then whenever I get that spark of inspiration, or I have something on the books, or I have a show planned, or I have a trip to Nashville to work and write, it's like I'm never just sitting like with nothing to do and trying to
Hmm.
force a bad idea into a song. It's like I have an appreciation for like where my life is at right now, and I think it's set me up to be successful going forward, and it's allowed me to set up this move to Nashville, and everything's falling in place. And so it's like there's never a day where I don't have something to do, and I'm appreciative of that.
Nice, nice. I do kind of like that split life. I'm
Yeah,
similar. I have a 9 to 5, and there's only like a handful of people at work that actually know what I do outside of work.
yeah,
And every time it's like I'm going on PTO, they blow up my spot. It's like, oh, Tom's going to interview someone famous. Like he's
yeah.
never coming back. And it's like, shut up. This is
It's not how it works.
not how it works. So,
Yeah,
but it's always funny. But that split life is always kind of interesting because it kind of gives you the opportunity to find balance almost, where it's not, your
Yeah.
life's not 100% music and it's also not 100% work, but
Yeah.
then you kind of have the opportunity to figure out, okay, the second music becomes work, do I still like it?
Yeah.
You know?
So
So,
that's what I was just about to say is like it's gotten to the point where it's almost like having two jobs because there's been like so many days where I've had to clock out and go straight to the studio and lay some
mm,
stuff down or recut some vocals or lay some backings or go in there and make some mix notes and
mm,
or I'm taking a week off on PTO to go to Nashville to write and do all these things. And so it's like I do love it. Like there's not an ounce of me that doesn't have so much love and appreciation for this process. And
mm,
I live by like if it just feels good to wake up and chase something. Like I'm not there yet. But there's so many things falling into place because of the work that not only I've done, but my friends have been supportive with and the writers I've worked with. And I had that I grew up playing sports, and so it was like it was all team sports, and so now it's like I got to do my part and kind of deliver on my end, and I just it's become a job, but I do still have a lot of love for it, and
yeah.
there's not a part of me that would want to do anything else.
Oh yeah, 100%. I 100% agree. So outside of your own music, who are you listening to right now that you're really digging? Like, is there any like independent or maybe local Tampa artists that you're kind of really getting into right now?
So I don't, to be honest with you, I don't listen to too much like underground independent stuff just because because I work with so many people who are kind of
Mhm.
in that space. I will say I have some buddies who make great music, and I'm going to use this time to shout them out because I work with them and I write with them. And but Brandon Hart and Dylan Ronan, those two guys have helped me a ton get to where I'm going, and they're artists in their own right, and they put out their own songs and they're great. So as far as like the underground guys, I just listen to my buddies that I work with because it's like I either played a part in it or I can just appreciate them because I know their story and who they are as an artist, and
Yeah,
they've got great songs. I wouldn't just sit up here and throw somebody out there who didn't deserve it. But
yeah,
as far as like mainstream, I'm a big Cody Johnson guy. I've been listening to a lot of Riley Green, a lot of Morgan Wallen. Obviously, like the big names are great, and so there are a ton of like up and coming people, and it's happened so quick with like
yeah,
social media and stuff. They look at like Bailey Zimmerman a year and a
yep,
half ago, and he's super talented, but it was just
yep.
a matter of getting it out in front of people, and now
Oh yeah,
he's like where he is.
oh yeah. I remember seeing Bailey Zimmerman just on Instagram. He had like 30,000 followers
Yeah,
on Instagram or whatever. And then before I knew it, everybody was talking about Bailey Zimmerman. And I'm like, wait
yeah,
a minute, that blow up just kind of happened in front of my face. And yeah,
yeah.
it was crazy how quick that all happened.
That's another thing that you, you always think like I'm sitting here and I'm sitting on these songs that I listen to literally every single day, and I love them, and they're in my mind they're perfect. And we've gotten to them to the point where they feel perfect,
Yeah.
and so it's like I think it's going to happen, but am I really ready for that? Like that amount of rush and that amount of like all these different things coming at you. So I have a lot of like hats off to the people who have done it and gotten through it and are better for it. And so that's another thing to be ready for when
Yeah.
you kind of travel down this lane.
Yeah. Some of these unreleased songs that you're sitting on, have you thought about maybe doing like acoustic versions and putting them out on like TikTok or something?
Yeah, so I can play them all on guitar, not that great. Like if I had to sit there and play to a click live with a band and
Yeah.
stuff like that, it's a little more pressure. But just sitting down and recording, I do. But part of me is hesitant because I'm flirting with the idea of doing like a full acoustic, like drop this album and
Yeah.
then do a full acoustic version of it because the acoustic scene has gone crazy
Yeah.
and people love it. And so, and it does, some of them just sound, I will be like honest, like the full band stuff sounds amazing, but there are some songs, not only mine, but like other artists that just sound better acoustic when it's just a guitar and a vocal, and it's more intimate and it means a
Mhm.
little more. It's like those songs are sometimes it's like you put so much work and so much money and so much effort behind making a full band, full production song when in reality people just want to hear you and a guitar. So yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely an argument to be made for all that because it's like I've always thought that musicians should like yes produce the music the way you originally see it, but I also like the idea of doing like acoustic stuff because
Just give
it
them both.
Yeah, doing both because the acoustic element brings a whole different life to the song. And some of my favorite songs are the acoustic versions
Yeah.
of the fully produced one. And it's just like, it just sounds cleaner. It's simpler. It's,
It
their
just
yeah.
Yeah, you can almost like relate to it more because you're like, that's just a person right there picking up
Mhm.
a guitar. It's not like 100 different elements, not like some one man band thing where you're playing five instruments and trying to
Yeah.
sing too. It's just like it's relatable.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, outside of that, how often are you playing shows right now? Do you have any upcoming shows on the books or?
So I off the top of my head, like I said, I don't want to throw any dates out there because I'm looking
Yeah.
at my calendar. I've misspoke so many times and I've gotten my
Fair.
door beat down. But we've put a show hold on for now because we're finishing this album. And
Hmm.
originally we were planning on doing something at the beginning of this year, just doing a quick little run. And then we
Yeah.
were so deep into this project. And because when I first went to Nashville, it was just supposed to be for like a single or two and see how
Yeah.
it turned out. And we hit it off with the writers, and everyone had a great time, and we loved writing. So we put a couple writes on the books, and I turned around, and it was 6 months of just writing. And so now we
Nice.
stared down the barrel of 3 or 4 months of recording and recording layers and messing around with melodies, harmonies, and then getting it mixed and mastered. And
Yeah.
so we haven't been able to do many shows over the past 12 months. And so our goal is to put together a little Southeast, like college town run
Hmm.
in like
Nice.
September, October, right around when the album drops. So all that stuff will be, I post it all on my social media, which is just Matt Oakley Music. And so whenever we have show dates come up, I try and um, add it to like my Instagram and TikTok, and it's on my Spotify and stuff like that. I just played a show like 4 days ago down in Aurora, Patriots
Mm.
Fest, and
Yeah.
that was super fun. And had about 1,500 to 2,000 people at my set alone, which is a great crowd to jam with.
Yeah.
And I looked
Nice.
out there and there was a couple people singing along. And so it was like, it's cool to feel like you can just kind of be dropped in this festival scene where there's like 12 acts and you have people there who know your stuff. It's a good feeling, and it's like motivating to get to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, the, being that you're in Tampa, have you been to Gasparilla Fest? I think it usually
Yeah.
happens in, yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever played or just been in attendance?
No, so like I said, I didn't even have enough songs to like justify a promoter getting on a block,
Fair.
say a year ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, I had two songs out.
Okay.
And
Fair
so it
enough.
was like, and then I put two more out, and I did CCMF, which is Carolina Country Music Fest in Myrtle Beach. And then right after that, like a month after that, is when we went to Nashville, and then all that stuff popped up. And so
Yeah.
I am itching to get back on stage and do a bunch of shows, but
Fair.
I also want to do it in a smart way where it's like we have songs out that I am singing so people can like them and go play them on their
Fair.
Spotify or streaming services, you know?
Fair. As I asked the question, I was like, oh, yeah, probably not. Like last year, he would only had a couple of songs out by that
Yeah.
point because it happened so early in the year.
Yeah.
So I
It's like
lived in
January, late January.
yeah, I lived in Tallahassee for a couple of years, and
Okay.
I got linked up with the promoter for Gasparilla, and they'd bring me down every year to come do podcast interviews with whoever was available, and it was always an interesting experience. I'll put it that way. So,
Yeah, it gets a little crazy, too crazy for me.
oh yeah, for sure. But really appreciate your time. For anybody that wants to check out your music, interact with you on social, any of that fun stuff, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, it's all, if it's a streaming service like Apple Music or Spotify, it's just Matt Oakley. And then if it's any of the socials, it's Matt Oakley Music, whether it's Instagram, TikTok, my YouTube channel. I think they're all Matt Oakley Music. So it's about as easy as it gets.
Awesome, awesome. Well, once again, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you. Thank
for
you for having me.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and we will catch you all later.